Guys, another video on Rainbow Six Extraction. Today we're actually going to be going over one of the operators, Capitao, and this one's really cool because he does have a really solid loadout, several guns to be selected from, and it's going to be 4 here for primaries and only 1 secondary. But I'll be going over this gadget and what it really does. It's very similar to how it works in Rainbow Six Siege, but it is going to be a little bit different. So let's go ahead and get started. So for the weapons, when you first start out, you'll get the Para 308 rifle, and it's actually a really solid gun. Without a suppressor, does 48 damage. With the suppressor, it will do 28, which is also one of the highest damage that you can possibly get with a suppressor without going to like an LMG or a DMR. But you still have that out of an assault rifle, which is really solid. And it also has every single muzzle attachment that you can get in the game right now. So you have obviously suppressor. Every gun will come with that except for very select few LMGs and shotguns. Yeah, the muzzle brake is essentially useless for this gun. It is automatic, so you'd want to be using the compensator, which is better for rapid fire or automatic. Or you can also use the extended barrel to make it to where you're able to keep up your 48 damage at way longer ranges, which I recommend over all these, unless you are absolutely awful at controlling the recoil. Run the compensator. But if you use any kind of skill at all, you don't need to use that. As you can see for the actual recoil pattern on the bottom right, it's really small, like more like circles. Compared to like if you go to the SMG on here, you can see it's like a little bit more spread out in a weird wide kind of color there. So it's more horizontal, and this one is more just straight up vertical and more in the smaller dots. So that's how you're able to read the recoil patterns there and what that means. And it's really solid right there. So I'll just run that. It's already real pinpoint accurate. There's almost no effort at all when it comes to recoil control on this. So it is absolutely a laser beam. And after that, you would unlock the M249. Now, this is obviously like one of the better choices to go with, since it is an LMG. You do have 100 rounds, has all the exact same stats as the assault rifle, so all it is a straight up boost when it comes to ammo capacity. But it does have a little bit more horizontal recoil, which isn't really a whole lot different. As you can see, it's really about the same. So there is just a very slight more spread, but it's not really noticeable at all. However, the reload time for this is actually a lot longer. Unlike the M249 on Gridlock, hers has a box-fed magazine that holds up to 60 rounds. This one does not. It is belt-fed, so it will take a while to reload. So do place your shots really fast or like really well, and reload whenever you're able to have a bit of a break in the action there. So that is one downside to this entire deal. Unless you're playing on the hardest difficulties, you wouldn't really need to worry about that a whole lot though. You have the Spaz 15 semi-automatic rifle, only holds up to 6 rounds in the magazine, 7 if you're counting the one actually in the chamber, and it hits like a truck. It's a close-range semi-automatic shotgun. It's more or less like a copy and paste version of Ella's and Zofia shotgun, so you could do whatever you want with that. It's good for close-range stopping power. It doesn't really have any kind of barrel attachments or anything. You can get scopes on here, but they're really small, like holographic to reflex the red dot sights. So there's not really a whole lot in the way of customization there. And you also have the M12. To be honest with you, this is really just a downgrade of the assault rifle. It has a little bit more horizontal recoil, but for the first initial shots, as you can see, it's actually a lot smaller for dots there. So for the first couple shots, it's way better. And you're able to better control your gun. It has a way slower rate of fire at 550 compared to the 650 that the assault rifle has, but also has just 8 less damage. It'll still take about like 3 shots to kill a normal grunt, so it's not too bad. And the ammo capacity is at 30 for both of them, so all it really does is lose 8 points of damage and a little bit of fire rate. So it's really, I think you'd just be better off with the Para. It's way more flexible in all those kind of ranges. Now this one does have the suppressor, The extended barrel, so you can turn to where it's more like an assault rifle, and you're able to hold those hard-hitting ranges for, or hard-hitting like stopping power for longer ranges for an SMG, so it's pretty solid. And for some reason it has a muzzle brake. I'm not really sure why. Again, this is only helping out with single shot guns. I'm not really sure why they put this in here. It's completely useless. I think it doesn't really do anything unless you're tapping it for single fire, but hardly anyone ever does that. So I would just kind of stay away from this gun unless you just want to run something different. So the ones I would normally go with is the Para 308 or the M249 or M249 SAW. If you'd want to go ahead and just like be okay with a longer reload. The Para I just found to be a little bit more flexible in all ranges. And the secondary is PRB 92. It's just a pretty solid handgun with a suppressor option and a muzzle brake. Now this one will actually be useful because pistols, or most of them anyway, or secondaries here, are semi-automatic. So this is actually good when it comes to recoil. And, you know, handguns don't really kick a whole lot anyway, so it's kind of useless, but if you want to run that, you can. And, you know, the React Tech is whatever the heck you want it to be. So he does have a pretty good selection of guns here for you to use. But what I think is one of his best or his gadgets here, as you can see, is the TAC MKO crossbow. Now, in Rainbow Six Siege, you're able to switch from smoke bolts when it hits any kind of surface. The bolt will explode and have like a big it's essentially acting as a projectile smoke grenade. So wherever you hit an object on, it's going to blow up in the cloud of smoke, very similar to tossing a smoke grenade into a room. Usually if people would run him in Rainbow Six Siege, you would probably get off a bunch of smokes or a bunch of smoke bolts surrounding a certain area, so you can, you know, get your teammate to run in with a diffuser, or you run in with a diffuser to get that good attack off. If you wanted to do that, and for extra cover, you can actually just switch over to his fire bolts, and then you just shoot the diffuser, or shoot in the general area of the diffuser. So if enemies try to go defuse it, you know, they'll be burning, and they'll have a pretty good chance of them actually just dying outright from burning up there. So he is really good in Rainbow Six Siege. I mean, probably really underrated. You just have to get a good line of sight on objectives and stuff. But this one works a little bit different. Obviously, it's a PvE, not PvP. We don't have diffusers. But he does kind of the same thing. So in the first one here, as you can see, he will shoot poison. It's not fire, so it's essentially a long-range version of smoke. So if you go over to smoke here, as you guys know, he has smoke grenades that will blow up in this weird yellow, essentially mustard gas. You throw it up in the air, and it kills things very, very quickly. I'll be doing a guide over him in a little bit. I want to have to level him up to level 10 first before I actually want to do a cover over him. But he's essentially like the same thing. He does have poison bolts. It's going to act very similarly to his smoke grenades or smoke grenades. However, it will not block a line of sight. There is one thing I was going over, and I wanted to actually test this out. So the smoke bolts, when you hit in a certain area, will cover a good, like I believe, about 5 to 10 meter radius. So it has a pretty good amount of coverage, and it kills enemies really quickly. As you can see, as soon as he shoots the poison bow here, or bolt, it lights up, the enemies turn around. So you've seen as when he shot it, the enemies turned around towards the direction of the initial impact there. So the venom bolts, for some reason, even though they're not a big explosion or anything, they do technically act as an explosive device. So enemies will run into whatever area where the actual bolt blew up at. So technically, if you shoot it into a room where a bunch of enemies are kind of sitting around at, instead of them coming towards you where you fired, they're actually going to be walking towards that bolt area and walking straight into the poison and dying. They obviously can't really detect any of this stuff, so they won't try to avoid it. If they're already alerted or anything, they'll run just straight towards there, and you essentially get a bunch of free kills. So he's really good for racking up a bunch of XP. And he has this. I'm not sure if the smoke screen pops up on here. I'm not entirely sure. Let's see if it covers that as well. But if the smoke screen, yeah, you want to have to go over here. So the smoke screen is very similar to the smoke grenades that you normally get into the game. So you can pop it, and as long as you're standing on the other end of the smoke, they won't be able to see you. Obviously, you will, if they are alerted, when you walk into the other side of the smoke, they will lose line of sight on you, and they won't be actively shooting at you, but they are now in search mode, and they'll be walking around, probably trying to get a different angle to see if you're still in that general location. So that's kind of your break from the action, and you can go quickly hide and get out of the engagement, and then come back a little bit later when they kind of cool down a little bit or off their alert mode. Or you can also use it to block a line of sight when they're not detected. These things don't actually, for some reason, have the coding of exploding, so enemies won't be alerted by this when it hits the ground or any kind of surface. So you can use it just like normal cover. It will not scare any of the enemies or alert them, so you can just use it to walk right past any kind of line of sight for like an apex or something that you need to walk across the hallway that he's looking down. You just shoot into that area or shoot it down that hall and then walk right past it to get to a different room. And he's really good for that. And very similarly, enemies that are caught in smoke grenades, they will not only lose the line of sight on you, or line of sight, but when you throw it right on top of the enemy, or any enemies that are caught inside the smoke radius there, it'll make it to where that they are stunned and kind of like thrown off a little bit. And you can run up to them and get a free takedown. So it's a very similar effect to the stun grenade. The glue grenade takes longer to actually be able to set up that prompt, I think. I haven't actually used that a whole lot. It's not really the best one out of any of them. And a paralysis grenade, any of those that really kind of give you a prompt for doing takedowns. So smoke grenade is tier 1 explosives. So for new beginners, this is the thing that you'll be starting out with. So I recommend running that if you want to get any kind of takedowns done. But the only thing about the smoke grenade is that it takes a little bit second, or takes about two. Yeah, it says right here, throwable grenade detonating in 2.5 seconds after impact. So you do have to wait 2.5 seconds for it to actually explode and being able to cover an entire area. So it's kind of odd. It's not really best used when you're trying to quickly react to an enemy threat. So it's more for just straight up stealth if you can carry it. And you also do carry 3, which is one of the base or default highest amount that you could possibly get for smoke grenades, and also run the explosive harness so you can get 6 by default, and that'll be really good. So he has essentially on level 10 you'll be able to have 4 of the cross or the venom bolts and 4 of the smoke bolts, as you can see here. So deeper mags I just got on the level 10, increase the bolt bolt count, increase to 4 for both types. So you do have 4 of them to work with. This man is an absolute menace to society if you're able to lock off an entire section of an objective. And you go over here to concentrated compounds. This is one of the upgrades that he gets, and it makes it to where that the bolt effect duration increases to 15 seconds. That's 15, 30, 45, 60. So all around 60 seconds for both smoke or venom. I'm really just looking at venom because that does the most amount of damage. Kills them really quickly. So he is very much an extended version of smoke, and way more flexible in that kind of area. And he has one of the greatest passive abilities, which is resilient revival. And this is when he goes down. Normally you have your handgun out and a bunch of enemies will start shooting at you. If you're around mostly grunts or anything, low tier kind of enemies, you have your secondary. You'll start lighting up enemies. It kills while down, replenishes 5 downed health. If you do get a bunch of kills rapidly while you're down, and if you reach back up to 100 of your total down health bar that should be slowly draining, you'll be able to self-revive. So you put that on. You can also put on body armor so you can go down, or guarantee down but not out state as well. So it can be extremely hard to straight up take out of the fight. So if you want someone you don't want to go MIA really quickly, he is good for those kind of harder challenges. So he's really solid there. So what I'm going to go ahead and do, I want to jump into a small match. Let's do New York for an example. We can go to Monolith Garden. And moderate, we're not doing anything too crazy, but we're going to jump in and I'll show you guys how he works. And oh yeah, so he has a 4 armor 3 speed, so or not 4 armor 3 speed, he's a 4 speed 3 armor, so he's second from the fastest category that you can get, and he is a little bit above average when it comes to armor, so he is a little bit squishy, kind of like how Alibi is, so he doesn't really take a whole lot of hits, but with all the stealth that you're able to get out and poison that you're able to distract enemies and just straight up kill them with, you shouldn't really be running into a bunch of scenarios where you should be spotted and take a lot of heat. So that is something to keep in mind. And this one is Biopsy. This is a great one to show his ability here. On top of this, you know, you can also run smoke grenades if you want to. So if you want to run the 4 smoke grenades or smoke bolts that you have on your actual person or on your crossbow, you can also run another 6 smoke grenades by hand, and you can cover a large portion of in that, so you can make it to where that you're essentially just as effective as Vigil when it comes to stealth.
Incursion protocols in effect. Activating all trackers.
So as you can see, there's his handgun there. The bolt, you can switch it over. As you can see, there's a pretty fast switch reload here. The black one is going to be smoke bolts. You can see on the bottom right, it'll tell you which one you have loaded. And venom bolts right there. Enemy right there. Enemy right there, yeah, so I'm just going to skip them entirely. So as you can see, I will shoot. Kills them. Again, it attracts any kind of alien over to that direction. As you can see, he's kind of like walking over there. And getting hit. Direct impacts will kill them. Or kill explosives, so... So that will be something to look at. So the actual initial hit of the bolt does do damage. So if you want to hit explosive guys with it, you can. He'll kill them instantly with that. So let's go ahead and switch back. You guys kind of get the idea. It doesn't kill them really fast. Like, it does take a little bit longer to kill enemies compared to smoke. But it does make it to where it'll kind of do a lot of damage and get a little bit of health off the enemies while you're shooting at them, and it will just straight up kill them if you're not already alerted. They're all going to go walk over into that area, and there's nothing for them to attack, so you know, they just kind of sit there and die, which is kind of weird, but it works out. So we're not going to go over in this direction. Yeah, remember when you always go through here, all those explosive guys, apparently, like when they add the smoke one as well. So it turns out all the explosive guys, the bloaters, the breachers, the explosive ones, which you should really look out for, and the smoke ones now, the purple looking ones. So they all do damage when they do explode. The smoke one doesn't really do a whole lot at all. It's like very, very small amount, but it does do damage. So if you have a bunch of those guys running together, all you need to do is shoot one and they'll have a chain reaction, blowing up all of them at once. So it's actually really satisfying to see, like a bunch of explosions and colors kind of going everywhere while you're lighting them up. It's kind of cool. But you're able to just hit them with your gun and like butt them back and just send them to where you're kind of using them as your own weapon. So some high tier advice there for utilizing your enemy against them. And if they add any more variants, I mean, I can tell you now, I'm weaponizing every one of them, so that's extraction point. I just ran through there, so where in the world is this thing supposed to be? I'm just gonna start running around.
There it is.
There we go. Right, so for this one, I'm gonna come up here and destroy this nest. So there's a good group of them in here, so what I want to do, I'm going to toss in the smoke. Stuns all them.
The more samples we get, the more we'll learn about the enemy.
As you can see, just stunned all of them. Works just like a smoke grenade would. Just instant. And there you go. I mean, that's essentially it. Just kind of showed off the whole deal. And we go on to the next one. That's nest tracking. So I guess you don't really need to see any more. I kind of just showed off the whole gadget. I'm not really going to do the entire deal, but you get the idea. It stuns them, run up to them, and take them out, or the poison one. Will kill enemies when they run into that area. It does count as an explosive for that anyway. So they will go ahead and just react to the sound there unless they already see you. And that's when you use the smoke and get out of the way. So you can really manipulate the enemies and kind of place them where you need to get around them more stealthily. When they are alerted to the explosive of the actual venom, as you've seen there, they don't alert everything else. They don't actually do like that weird howl to where it alerts all the nests or anything like that. So you don't need to worry about straight up alerting the entire map. They'll just kind of go investigate it or be on alert mode. But aside from that, guys, there's not really a whole lot left for me to show on Capitao. I think he's more of the underrated kind of ops in this game. He's extremely handy, especially in the ranked mode, I guess you can say. And he's pretty solid. The only closest person to him would be Smoke, and again, I will be going over him as soon as I get him to level 10, and that'll be showing off all his stats and showing his full power there. He is pretty solid as well. But aside from that, thank you guys for watching. Tell me what you guys think about it down in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.